Hello there, everyone. I'm Todd Weller, and thank you for joining today's Lunch and Learn served by the FileMaker team at Cross IT. Before we dig in, remember that you have a chance to win lunch on us if you leave a comment or ask us a question during the live stream. Just to make sure we have your email address so we can contact you. While many businesses strive to be paperless, there are some things that must be printed. Oftentimes, these documents are printed through a combination of manual steps. In today's installment, we look at scripting those print operations and some of the common design patterns we have used to provide a better user experience. We have a lot to cover today, so let's dive in. Yeah, so we're talking about printing today, specifically the idea of scripting of those print operations. But just as a quick review, let's take a look at what we do when we're manually printing a document. There's two primary menu commands that you can use, which are found under the File menu here, which of course are the page setup, which allows you to set your orientation, do a little bit of zooming, select a printer, but then also, of course, the print command itself, where you get like the full dialog to select the range of pages and other specifics to your specific printer. So those are the two main commands. Then you also have under the View menu, you're able to do a preview mode, so you can actually see what the output is going to look like. And we'll look at a quick example of that here as we dig in. But what we're going to be looking at here this morning with our scripting is that there are a few more things that we can do that are going to provide a better user experience. And the first of those is to automatically establish the proper context for the user. That entails both navigating to the correct layout, because you probably have a data entry layout and then some other layout that is used for the printed form or the printed report, and they're not going to be the same. So this way you can navigate, make sure you're on the correct layout. And then you can also establish the proper found set, because the user may be looking at all records, but they need to print inventory items that need to be reordered, or a list of invoices that are overdue or something like that. So it's a smaller found set, and you're able to do that programmatically, so that when they run that report, it's consistently pulling up the correct information. And then of course you're able to do a preview of that report in a new window, which is something that we do quite often, and I think it works well. So that's what we're going to be looking at today. None of these are hard and fast rules. These are a lot of my preferences that I'm just sharing with you, and then you can do with it what you will. So let's go ahead and we'll dig in and get right into the demo section. So what I have here is just some sample data where we've got a list of orders and a few potential operations that we would want to see, one of which is generating that list of overdue invoices. And then the other option is to either print a packing slip or to print the invoice itself. So we're going to take a look at a couple examples of that. But to begin, let's just go ahead and take a look at the operations required to print the report. So if I wanted to look at items that are more than 30 days overdue, I would come in, typically get to my found set. Or I could go ahead and navigate to the proper layout, which I'm going to go ahead and do, and just switch over here to the order summary, okay, that looks good there. There's some conditional formatting that you can see for invoices that are overdue, but we probably don't want to see all invoices. We just want to focus in on those ones that are overdue. So if I go ahead and go into find mode, and then if I just say I want to look at everything that is less than, let's see, today is the 17th, so we'll go back 1 month. And I can perform my find. That gets me my found set, and you can see all of the ones that are not overdue have been removed. And then when I go ahead and go into a preview, if I want to see, okay, what is this actually going to look like, I can come up here and go to preview mode, or I can use my shortcut. And I can see, okay, it looks like everything's going to fit on the page, so that all looks good. And then I can just go ahead and, again, do my print or do Command P, and it's going to bring up the print dialog and do everything that I would expect it to do. I'm going to go ahead and cancel because we don't know where that print is actually going to save. I go back to browse mode, and come back here to my data entry screen. But what you will see is because I performed the find in the same window, I am now looking at those overdue invoices. I'm not looking at the entire found set or my original found set. So that may be the desired experience, it may not be. So we're going to go ahead and just start working on a script that is going to allow us to do that and maintain that original found set, but still give the user this preview of the print operation that's going to be happening. So go ahead and get into our script workspace. All right, and I've already got a couple scripts here started, at least by name, so I could already have them linked up to the buttons and everything. And the first thing that we're going to do here, and like I said, this is something I do quite often, is to go ahead and actually create this report in a new window. So we can just go ahead and do a new window script step. For the name, we'll just go ahead at the order summary. And then for the layout, we can go ahead and have it select our form that is for that order summary here. Obviously, we can do a little bit more with the size and positioning of the window. I'm not going to worry about it at this point. And then typically when I'm doing stuff with printing, I'll do it in a floating document window just so that it stays up above the main window, doesn't get lost as easily on the user if you do that. And we're going to go ahead and leave these options alone for now. So that gives us our new window. And then the next thing, all we have to do is do a find. So we're going to go ahead and enter find mode. And what's nice about this is that you are able to then, like I said, control and make sure that the report is run consistently. Like if everything should be 30 days or older, you can go ahead and program that in. So we're going to go ahead and do a quick calculation here to set our field, which is the date due. And then our calculation file makes it very easy for us when we're dealing with dates. We can just say, okay, everything that's today's date minus 30 days, and then all we have to do here is put that in so that we have everything that's less than the current date minus 30 days. That is for its due date. And we can just come in here, perform our find. And then at that point, I'm not going to really worry a whole lot about sorting and everything at this point, just for the sake of time. But then we're going to go ahead and do our print setup. Go ahead and turn the dialog off, but then we can get in here and go ahead and start specifying our page options, which we can format it for any printer. We're using 8.5 by 11, and we're going to go with the portrait orientation. So that all looks good. We can save that. And then come down here and then do the final print command. And this one here, we are going to go ahead and run with the dialog on. Okay. And then we'll just put in our exit script step so that I can sleep better tonight. All right, so we'll go ahead and save that. Now, if I come back over here to our window, you can see that I've already got this button laid out. I've got it defined to go ahead and generate that summary report. And so now when I click on it, and it immediately pops up and says, okay, where do you want to send it? Now it looks like we're looking at those same 21 records, so my find operation worked. We'll just go ahead and dump it out here, open it in preview rather than send it to a printer, and then I can pull it over here and we say, okay, that looks like the report that I was looking for, so that all looks good. And you can see here that it did open in a new window, but that's probably not the complete behavior that I want, right? So another thing that we can do to help the user out is that once the print operation has succeeded, let's go ahead and we can close that window. So we'll get back into our script workspace, and then we'll just do a close our current window and just kind of clean up after ourselves, basically. All right, so I'll go ahead and get rid of that one. Come back in here. We can run that script again. Again, it's going through the the same kind of thing. Go ahead and do a open in preview, and the report has opened in preview here on my other window. That'll drag over, but you can see that when we come back to FileMaker, it has closed that window because it has generated the report for us. So things are looking very good there. So that's a very quick, simple example of this idea of going ahead and opening up in that second window for your printing. All right, so there's a few other things obviously that you can do, and there's different methods to get to that second or preview window, if you will. And so let's go ahead and take a look at that now. And what we're going to do here is we have options where we can either print the packing slip for this particular order, or we can go ahead and print the invoice for this particular order. Okay, so what does that look like? So we'll go back into our script workspace and get over here to our print order script. And this one here, we're actually using a now we're going to get there in just a second. I don't want to get ahead of myself. All right, so let's start with this. And we're going to use the go to related records script step, which is very handy. So we'll go ahead and get that dropped in here. All right, and so what we have here is we've got some settings that we can have. We can pick our related records. Now for this, because I've already built the layout, I know that both the invoice and the packing slip are based on the items that are on this particular order. So I want to make sure that I'm working from that context. So I'm going to get related records from this order to the order item. And then I want to show records using a particular layout. And what I'm going to do is, rather than pick one of the forms that I've created for the invoice and the packing slip, I'm going to select this layout here. And based on my naming convention and that little prefix that's in front of it, I know that this layout is designed specifically for script use. It has no fields on it, it's just a note, so I know that this is for the order items. But that lets me do things without worrying about any summary calculations firing off or anything like that may slow down the performance of the script until I get to that final found set. So it's just something that I like to do there. Like I said, we have the option here to show it in the new window, which again looks exactly like the new Windows script step dialog. So we can select our window style, we can give it a name. Like I said, we've already got our layout selected here. Again, we can play around a little bit with the size and position of that window if we want to. We can also control the window options there if necessary. And so now we have this, and then the only other thing we have to do is, because we want to print specific to the order that we're looking at, so we want to make sure that we're matching all of the records, or matching the current record only. We do have the option to match all records in the current found set, but that's going to pull up all of the orders, which is what we don't want. We just want to be looking at the printed invoice or printed packing slip for this specific order. So we're going to go ahead and leave that match current records only. Click OK. So we've got that in there. And then the last thing that we're going to do, at least in this iteration of the script, is rather than go directly to print, I'm going to go ahead and go into preview mode. All right, and then I'm going to go ahead and adjust the window size. Okay, and then rather than doing the restore, which it defaults to, I'm going to go ahead and have it resize to fit, and we're going to see what that does. And again, I'm going to go throw it in my exit script step. All right, so we'll save that. So just as a refresher, we were looking at this script here. We can see it's the full window size and everything, and then whether I cancel or go ahead and proceed with the print, it just brings me right back to here. All right, well now if I go ahead and go in and pick my packing slip, and I forgot a step. Okay, go back and fix that error on my part, because like I said, we're going to this script, but then once we've established our context for the order items, we need to make sure we're going to the proper layout. So let's go ahead and we'll throw that in there, and we'll just go ahead and use the packing slip for this one. Like I said, that script use layout is blank. So now when I go back here and I select the layout, we come up with a preview, and what's nice here is that the window has resized because of the steps that we have that are we can see the full report, but then we can see that obviously our data entry screen is still behind us. And because I've dropped into preview mode, now I have a couple different options in my menu at the top that you don't normally see, which are the Save as Excel, the Save as PDF, or then we also have our Print and our Page Setup buttons right there. So it gives the user kind of a more natural expectation is, okay, here's the preview of the order. Is everything correct? If it is, I can go ahead and click Print or Save as PDF, whatever I need to do. If it's not, I can just close it, make the changes to my layout. Maybe it's a case where they are looking at the wrong, maybe it's a different order and they actually needed to print this one, so they can go ahead and pull that one up and they get that same kind of experience where they're able to preview the order before they proceed. All right, so we're well on our way. So like I said, I think that's a nice kind of what the user would expect. So we can go ahead and program for that. Now, you'll notice that we have both the order, like summary for a packing slip, as well as an invoice, which are two different forms. So we need to do something there. And so what we're able to do is we'll get rid of that, go ahead and go back into our script workspace. And then what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and add a parameter that we're going to pass to the script. So if I like to get my script parameter and throw it into a local variable just so I have easy access to it and it has a name that I can refer to later on, where this one here is the format, and this is just a And the reason why I'm doing it using the get script parameter, putting inside a get value, is one of the common methods of sending parameters to a script, especially if you've got multiple values, is to go ahead and set it up as a return separated list. And this is just telling me I want to get the first value. Well, of course, in this condition, there's only going to be one, but there might be a point in the future that I need to pass a second parameter. So this kind of helps future-proof the script, if you will, by going ahead and doing it that way. So we're capturing our parameter, and then all we have to do down here now is make a decision as to which layout or final layout we go to. So if our variable, which is format, equals invoice, we're going to do one thing, else we're going to go to that layout. So we'll just go ahead and do another go to layout. So if our parameter that we're passing is invoice, we go to the invoice layout. If not, we go to the packing slip layout. So that's another thing. By programming it this way, the user doesn't have to think about, did I go to the right layout when I went to print the report manually, because we've taken over that control, so they know by picking the correct button, they're going to get the proper output that they need. So let's go ahead and take a look at that. So if we click here, you can see that we have, here's our order. This looks like a packing slip because they would be concerned about weight to make sure the truck is not overweight before they send it out. If I close that, and then here, this looks like an invoice because it has, the price and the extended price and a total price for this particular order. So again, it looks like that logic is doing exactly what we would expect it to do. All right, so there's a couple more things that we can do with this just to make sure that the user doesn't get into a place where they don't want to be. Some of you may have already guessed what that would be, is that obviously we're using this go to related record script step. And it works great when there are items in the portal, but when a brand new order is created, it's very likely that the portal is not going to be filled in immediately while the order is being created. And so if you accidentally click the button, there's no related records, it's going to cause an error, might put the user in an area or a place in the solution where they really shouldn't have been because they just kind of stumbled into it. So what we're able to do there is if we just go back up and we can just use another if statement. And this one here is there's a function called isValid that we're able to use. And what we're able to do there is if we look at our order item table, again by the naming convention I know that these are the items related to this particular order. But then if I just pick the primary key of that item record, that as long as it's valid, then I know that, okay, I've got related records, and so that's exactly what I want to have happen. But then if it's not, then I can just go ahead and exit the script. I don't have to worry about doing anything else because obviously there's no related records to display about that particular order. So let's go ahead and save that change. And we'll pick a different order here. And if I come in and we'll do the invoice, okay, so everything still works when we've got related records. But if I come in here and I'm just going to go ahead and create a brand new record, throw me in here at the end, no information. And like I said, typically this could be a problem if I were to print it. But if I go ahead here, I'm just going to go and script debugger so that we can see exactly what's happening. And now if I select the packing slip button, it's going to call that script. It's going to pass the parameter in. I'm going to pull that parameter out, and it's going to check for valid line items on this order. When it doesn't see them, it just bypasses everything else, and then we exit the script. So now we know we're not going to be throwing the user into an area where they're not going to be able to pull up the information that they're looking for. All right, so what else can we do to help improve the user experience? All right, well, let's go ahead and we'll get back to a valid order here. And so here I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pull up this to print the packing slip, and then I'm going to do this to print the invoice. Okay, now you'll notice that it pulled up two windows, and if I were to go ahead and keep clicking buttons, there's a third one and a fourth one. And so again, that may or may not be the desired user experience, where you want to dismiss the one window before another one is brought up. So how do we handle that? Okay, because you can see over here, if we go in just to our windows, see we got a whole bunch of print order scripts that we probably really don't want to have open. It might be confusing to the user to have all of these windows open. So let's go ahead and go back into script workspace. And so what we're able to do here is the first thing is that you can just do something to select the window. Okay, there's a select window script step, but we want an error trap for it. And so we'll go ahead. The way I build scripts is I typically turn error capture on when I want to look for an error, and then I immediately turn it back off because if there's an error condition that I didn't anticipate, I want FileMaker to tell me about it, not just ignore it through the rest of the script. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to select a window. Okay, and rather than the current window, we want to go ahead and give it a name. And since we're using print order as the window name that is being opened here, let's just double check that to make sure. Yes, we got print order. We want to make sure that that window name is the same. So we'll come back here. Okay, and just paste that in to make sure I didn't have any typos or anything. So we want to select that window, and then what we want to do here is we're going to go ahead and capture any potential error. Okay, let's call that select error, and this is get last error. And like I said, because of how I build my scripts, I'm going to go ahead and set error capture off since I no longer need it because I've captured any error. Okay, and then the last thing that I need to do is, I try to find that window, and then if that error is 0, meaning it was able to select that window, I want to go ahead and close the window. And again, we'll go ahead and specify it by name. All right, so that all looks good. So let's see what happens. All right. So again, we'll go ahead and go back to script debugger so that you can see the actions that as we go through them. All right, so we're printing an order or an invoice. So again, we got our format. We're going to go select the window, and this is what I would have expected because the window is missing. So it stores that in the local variable for me, checks the value and says, well, the error was 112. It definitely wasn't 0, so I'm not going to try to close a window because there's no window to close. And then it just comes down here, runs through the rest of the script, and pops up our window. So now if I were to come in here, let me just move this around so you can see, and we'll just go ahead and switch to a different order and say this one I want to get the packing slip on. Now what happens is, again, comes in, grabs the parameter, tries to select that window, and this time there was no error. So now the error is 0, so it comes down here and says, oh, there was no error, so I'm going to go ahead and close that window first, and then now it's going to run through the rest of the script, and it pulls up the new order that we selected using the proper layout in a window, so I don't have window upon window upon window. So another nice thing that we like to build into our solutions to help the user out. And I think with that, that was everything that I had wanted to cover for you. Let's see if we have any questions here today. Oh, here's a good question. First one was, how do I get started building a script? I will admit sometimes it depends on what the task is, but for something like this, pretty much what you saw, especially with the invoice summary report, where I'll actually just kind of walk through the steps manually, because a lot of those script steps are going to have direct correlations to items that are in the menu that I can select there. So I'm able to go through the steps, build the report manually, kind of have a framework for what I want to need to do without any error trapping. And then as I think about it, then I can expand on that once I get into the script to, again, kind of flesh out what I need to do in case, well, what if those related records are missing? Or, what if there's a window open that I need to close before I can generate the report? So that's typically the process that I follow. Okay. Here's another question. Can all printing be scripted? I guess the big thing was that it all depends. Obviously, the more that you can script so that the user has, they can just click a button, they get the report and the output that they need. That's going to be a lot less on them to figure out, okay, did I get to the right layout? Did I get the right found set? And so there's going to be that consistency in operations. But then there are those ad hoc reports where it's a one-time thing, where it's got to be a custom layout because of the data that's being requested for a year-end report or something like that. So those kinds of things you kind of have to balance. Is it worth just generating the report the one time, or do I want to figure out how to script it because it's going to be run on a consistent basis? So that's something where you just kind of have to make the call. What didn't I have time to cover? Well, there's a couple things. One of the things is that when you take a look, and I'm just going to go ahead and get back here to our invoice summary report, because this includes the print setup and the print operation itself, is that I found it very easy to have multiple scripts that are doing print operations. And then if you find out that there's a problem with that print operation, or something changes, then all of a sudden you've got to go to all of these different page print setups or print dialogues to make a tweak or something. Well, if you can have, I like to call them either a universal or a utility script whose only job is to print. So you would have a script that would generate the found set and get you to the right layout, and then you would call this utility script who does the printing based on, do you want to see the current record or the current found set? So you can make that choice, and you would pass parameters that then the script is able to make decisions on, so that you only have to maintain one print script, if you will, that you just call from all these different areas where you're having to print this report or this form and those kinds of things. So that's something, certainly if there's enough interest, we can look at it at a future Lunch and Learn and kind of dig into the details of that, because there's a few other utility scripts that I like to use. They're similar in nature because you repeat those operations so often. The other thing that I ran out of time to cover today is the idea of, we pull up this, especially in this scenario here, we pull up a window that we want to preview what's being printed, and if it doesn't look right, they need to change it. Well, in preview mode, FileMaker gives us this exit preview button, which you would want to have say, I want to exit the preview. Unfortunately, when you exit the preview, it exits preview mode and puts you back into browse mode in that window. So what you're able to do is, by writing a script, adding a script trigger, that when it sees that mode change, you can actually have it dismiss this window so that the user comes back to their data entry screen, which is kind of a more natural expectation, I think. It's not very difficult, but it does take a little bit of effort to set up both your script step or your script trigger and then the script itself, just to go ahead and dismiss that whenever you change modes from that preview mode to any other mode, so that you can close the window. So I think that is all we have on questions. Let's see if any others have come in. No, I think that covers the questions. So let's talk about some upcoming events. We do have a few of them. The first is our next meeting of FMBurg, which is the Pittsburgh FileMaker Developer and User Group. Takes place on Wednesday, September 7th at 7 p.m. This is a hybrid meeting, which means you have the option to attend in person down at Bakery Square in Pittsburgh, or you can join us remotely. For details and to RSVP, please visit www.crossit.com/fmberg, and you can find the meeting details there. At noon on Wednesday, September 21st, we'll serve our next Lunch and Learn. And as we wrap up our summer schedule events, we're still in the planning stages, so please stay tuned and we'll announce our topic in the next couple of weeks. Again, thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule and joining us today. If you like what you saw and heard, please click the thumbs up and share this video. If you haven't subscribed, we humbly ask that you do. And you can also hit the bell there in YouTube to get notified when a new video is posted. All right, now some of our content that we present as part of our Lunch and Learn sessions are the results of your questions. So if you have a specific problem that has you stumped, or if you have a future topic in mind for a suggestion, please submit those ideas and questions by emailing us at nutshell@crossit.com, and your idea or question may be the featured topic of a future Lunch and Learn. From all of us here at CrossIT, we are glad to have served you. Have a great day.